Alright, I'm going to show you how to install the Pro V. Typically we do it on a Bowtech bow and all our other instructional videos, but I'm going to do one on a Hoyt here, just kind of mix it up a little bit. On the Pro V, take it out of the package, there's going to be the main and adjustment bracket that already has the bolt installed in on it. What you're going to want to do is take an Allen wrench and just spin that bolt out of there. And you'll take the main housing of the rest, and there are two different mounting holes in the adjustment bracket for your windage. Either one is fine. It's going to kind of depend on the bow and what your setup is. I typically like to start with the left one. So you'll slide this right in. There's a little dovetail like edge on there. It goes together just like that. Put your bolt in here and snug it up. Typically I don't tighten it all the way because you're going to have to adjust your windage anyway in a little bit. So next, you're going to take your main riser bolt out of the package. That will go right through your main bracket here. Go ahead and tighten that up. I typically like to run the rest as far forward as I can, so I'll basically push it as far as I can, and then sometimes I'll back it off just a little bit depending. Some guys do like to run it back a little bit further to torque tune, but I typically like to run mine further forward. So run that all the way tight. Want to get your rest as level as possible, so it's very level here on the basically by the main bracket, you can tell. Go ahead and snug that all the way up. Now we're going to set the windage. I picked a Hoyt riser here because they do have that textile riser. Sometimes it's a little bit tricky to get in there, so instead of using an Allen packet, I'm just going to use a regular Allen wrench. So I will get in here to this bolt, loosen it up just a hair, just enough so I can move that rest left and right. Typically what I'll do is you want to run that V dead center. As far as your center shot goes, sometimes people will measure them. I like to eyeball it. It's a very forgiving rest, so just getting it close typically will get you a good starting point, then you can fine tune from there. So basically what I do is I will run this string right down the center of my grip, center of my cam groove, center of my riser, anywhere along there, just to get a really good center shot. So I'll run that string right down the center of my grip, and I will run the V of the rest right through the center of that string. So I'm looking right down the string, I'm putting that string right in the center of the grip, and I'm putting the V of that rest right down through the center of the string. So when I get that right where I want it, I will obviously hold it to where it is and tighten down the windage bolt. So your windage is set. Now I will do the elevation. The elevation bolt is going to be out here on the outside. You can loosen that just a little bit. And typically, my arrow go right here. I've already got my D-loop set on here. It's not set in the right spot, but it's tied on. You can see our D-loop installation video if you need to know how to do that. So basically, I will knock my arrow, and I will get this. I can push here with my thumb or my finger to get this height set, and I can slide my D-loop. My D-loop isn't locked in yet. So basically, what I'll do is I will get that rest so that the arrow is running dead level with the D-loop across the arrow, across the rest, and runs right across where your burger button would be. I typically like to go a little high in the burger hole, especially on some of the newer Bowtechs, things like that. They do tune pretty good a little bit higher, so that's typically what I do. So once I get that set, again, I just eyeball it. It's very, very forgiving rest. You can laser it if you'd like, but typically I just like to eyeball it first. So I've got that set up to where the knocking point is dead level with the V of the rest. That is going right through where the burger hole would be. It's obviously covered up by the rubber here, but that's right about where it would be. Then you take your Allen wrench, snug that right up. So right now, your rest is pretty much set up, just like you would a stationary rest. It's squared, center shot, everything is on there perfect. Now what you're going to do is install the activation cord. Now the activation cord for the Pro V is going to go off the top limb. Depending on what bow you have, there are different sweet spots. Typically I like to install the limb pad right at the leading edge of the cam. So if you were to take your finger and run it up your limb, when it touches your cam right there, that's about where I like to put my limb pad. Now there are, with some of the more past parallel bows and some of the more modern bows, you do need to go a little bit further just to get enough limb movement to activate that rest. It doesn't take a lot, but you obviously need enough. Now what you want to do is take the limb pad. Now you want to clean this off with some denatured alcohol or something like that. This one's already been cleaned, so I'm just going to go ahead and put it on there. It's got an adhesive backing, so you can just go ahead and remove that. Maybe. And then I like to put it on the underside of the limb. So right about that leading edge, I'll put it right on the underside of the limb there. I'll press that tight on it. Just like that, so your limb pad's installed. You obviously want to do it on the same side of the bow or on the same side of the limb that the rest is. So your cord's going to come straight up the side. So next, we'll take your activation cord. This comes with about 27 inches of activation cord. That is enough to typically do the entire rest on any bow, and you'll probably have a couple, or enough to do a couple D-loops after that too if you'd like, so there's a little bit extra in there. What I do is I burn one end of the cord down, so you've got a nice bulb on it. I'll lay the rest, or the bow, across my lap. Now you're going to tie a D-loop knot, same as you would on a D-loop, to the end here. So I come around the bottom of the limb, right around that limb pad. The only thing that limb pad is doing is keeping this this knot from sliding up or down the limb. So I will tie my D-loop knot here. Once I get it tied on here, I will tighten it down, take the tag in, pull it tight, kind of work that knot right down onto the limb. Now when I set them up, I typically like to have the knot just a little bit on the outside of the limb. Not so much squared underneath, but just a little bit on the outside. There's kind of a corner there where that knot will kind of hook right in there. It works really well. So once I get it to that point, give the cord a good pull just to make sure everything's snug on there. Then you'll run that cord right down. There is a little button head screw here right on the launcher arm. It's got a little arrow that shows you which way to go. You always want to go clockwise around that. So you'll take that cord, loop it right around the little button head there. Might have to loosen it up just a little bit so you got enough room. And then you're going to take your tag end, and all you got to do is just pull up on that tag end. As you do that, your launcher arm is going to come to the down position. Now this is where I see the biggest mistakes or misconceptions is this cord has to be super, super tight. That's wrong. You don't want it super tight. You want it only tight enough to hold this launcher in the down position. You don't need to sit here and wrench on this thing, take needle nose pliers, and really wrench on it. I mean, this has got plenty of play in it. That's all you really need. So once you've got it to there, take your Allen wrench, tighten that button head back down, just like that, and you're good to go. Now as you tighten that down, it will tighten that cord just a little bit, so you want to make sure it's not guitar string tight. You want it so there's a good amount of play in it. Now typically what I will do at the end here, obviously you don't want this big tag end sticking here. I like to keep 2 or 3 inches out here, just so if you're making adjustments, you've got plenty to hold on to. So I will take this, trim it off. As you can see, there's enough there for a D-loop probably left. And then with my tag end, I've seen people do all kinds of crazy knots and whatnot. Mine, I'd basically just take a little loop, snug her down there, and that's not to hold anything. It's not going anywhere. That's just to keep it out of the way. So just a couple little knots like that. So really the rest is completely set up and ready to go there. There is one little set screw on the side here that's got a lock set screw in it. You can run that down tight on your riser if you like. It doesn't have to be overly tight, just enough to snug it. That will keep the rest from canting a little bit if you get a lot of pressure on it, but honestly, I don't personally use it that much. There's not a lot of pressure on this rest. There's never a lot of tension on here, so you don't really need that. But that is pretty much the quick setup there. What you're going to do from here is, throw a couple arrows through it, see how it's shooting through paper if you like a paper tune, and it should be pretty close. Typically from here, I would just yoke tune your left and right tear out, your up and down. There's probably not going to be any. If there is, you can run your rest up and down just a little bit, or your D-loop up and down just a little bit. If you need more technical advice on that, you can give me a call or check out some of our other tuning videos on it.